Here we go. Race Woman. We're continuing to read it. We're almost finished with this chapter. What I like to do is I get books and I read a chapter from each book. And that way you can get something from the book and then go get the book and read the rest. Or just take the information I give you and go with it. In some ways, her books are more revealing about herself than her plays and operas. In her Carver book, she expressed admiration for his asceticism and his aloneness. Wistfully, she spoke of his ability to construct a sheltered place where every day, alone and undisturbed, unhurried, he could work, could dream, and plan to improve the good earth. This book, written during the war, reflected the multi-class solidarity of that era. Hailing Carver's recycling and conservation activities, along with his expert use of weeds and other supposed useless plants. Though she was moving to the left, one could not guess it from this book, which had nothing bad to say about Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie, and other plutocrats whose names were scattered throughout the text. It was telling as well that her first book concerned Carver. He reminded her of her father because of his reverence for nature and all things living. Though some critics railed at her recreations of dialogue, others found this aspect trailblazing, adding a new dimension to the recounting of history, postmodern in import. Walter Pritchard Eaton, an acquaintance of her days at Yale, was of this latter camp, complimenting the dramatic effectiveness and imagination with which Graham sought to recreate Carver's boyhood. Another acquaintance writing from Black Mountain, North Carolina, could only compare this biography to an Arabian Nights story in its interest and its fabulous content. How did you learn to write so well? You make history read like a novel. The latter point was part of the problem, according to her critics, but if Graham could make her own life read like a novel, why couldn't she do the same for Carver and others? Her recounting the life of Paul Robeson was also greeted positively. The novelist Ann Petrie found it wonderful and added, I must confess the feeling kind of wonder. I must confess to feeling very smug because I am able to say that I know you. Carl Van Doren, who wrote the foreword to the 1946 biography, found it both charming and moving. The anti-communist upsurge that was to better Robeson and Graham had not reached its zenith at the time of publication. Thus this book too sold respectably. Again, more so than her plays, this biography was revealing of Graham herself. She included high praise for her former supervisor, Walter White, hailing him as the social and cultural arbiter of Harlem. She wrote with knowing detail about the artistic luminaries of the era, including James Weldon Johnson, Carl Van Vechten, Miguel Covarrubia, Freddie Washington, and others. At one point, she noted expansively that everybody came to Paris that summer. Langston Hughes and County Cullen, Alain Locke, Lloyd and Edna Thomas, and young Adam Powell. All friends of Shirley Graham, by the way. She wrote that her old friend Eric Walrond was handsome as a Greek god, done in ebony. But besides the knowing references to the literati, there were commendations of Robeson's identification with Africa and intimations of Graham's own political trajectory. What he said was the Negro race should redeem its African heritage. He stated that he definitely believed the future of Africa was tied up with that of the peoples of the East. This was combined with the exaltation of the Soviet Union. She approvingly quoted the Dean of Canterbury. All that I hear of the Russian program grips and inspires me. If what we hear is true, it is majestic in range, practical in detail, scientific in form, Christian in spirit. Russia would seem to have embarked on a task never yet attempted by modern or ancient state, It is a plan well worth studying. I laughed when he said a literati, well, literati because Dr. CBS always says niggerati, and it just popped in my head. Her biography of Robeson and Praise of Moscow reflected Graham's own political evolution. Unlike many in the United States, she moved more to the left as her economic fortunes improved and her age increased. That's interesting. Her presence in New York, the capital of the U.S. left, facilitated her budding friendship with Paul Robeson and his spouse, Eslanda. She was ecstatic when he agreed to cooperate with her biography of him. In most important moments, I can be strangely dumb. I had no words last night to express my feelings when you told me I might present you between the covers of a book to the men and women in whose hands lie the glorious task of building our new world. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. The details of his life were not altogether foreign to her, since she had followed the intense drama of his life for years. As with her other biographies, she would conduct research. I'll go to Philadelphia and acquaint myself with the scenes and friends of your childhood. However, she reminded him, the most important material of my research must come from you. I'd like to follow you about and just listen to you talk. The agreement to write his biography, she concluded, was a red letter day for me. And we'll be done with this soon. But this is very interesting. Um, and I'm going to keep reading it and reading it. And I think the next book I'm going to read from, I'm actually still doing a class on. I'm going to do a class on. I've been trying to do a class on Invisible Man, of course. Invisible Man for a while, so that's coming up next. But I have a few more pages in this. Until next time, um, try to stay safe, try to stay sane, and remember, it's a thought-based life for us.